to read from Memoir to 40, the autobiography of David Smith. David Roy Smith. It's part 17. At business school, I got a new circle of friends. There was Denise Rupert, who lived on the Upper East Side and was a Vassar girl. There was Jackie Singer, who went to Holyoke and lived on Park Avenue with her parents. I was slightly older than my friends, because they were usually fresh from undergraduate school, while I was already 28 years old in 1984. There was Alec Stais. Alec Stais was the smartest of the group, and back later on, he was a managing director at Goldman Sachs. He had a group project. We had a group project and case studies together. In the expected way, the ladies provided the emotional and verbal skills, writing skills, while us guys provided the quantitative skills and statistical skills. The girls had the looks, while the guys provided the math. Denise had a boyfriend, but I still flirted with her. She was thin and nice legs and a pretty face. Jackie Singer was another story. Jackie was a Jewish girl from Park Avenue. Jackie was on the rebound from some relationship with a guy named Ted. She was a bit emotionally wounded from the death of her past relationship. She and Ted had been in Chase Manhattan Bank training program, and I think Ted was still at Chase. I could have been that some of these ladies were at business school to find a husband. Jackie was a bit neurotic and would flirt with me and then withdraw the flirtation. I went to her place, and many times to study on Park Avenue. She was annoyed that I was engaged to Maria and kept on inquiring whether I loved Maria, or I was just being railroaded into marriage. Jackie was attractive, had slinky nice legs, and I was attracted to her, but the engagement to Maria was to remain a barrier. Once after the GPA follies, the graduate school business administration music review, which I was the pianist. Because of my music skills, Jackie made a big scene on the couch and about the fact that I was engaged, so she must have had a conflicted interest in me. We had two issues. One, I was engaged, and the two, I was probably too poor for her. As being from Park Avenue, she was looking for a rich guy. It was probably best I passed on her anyways, because her emotional nature. Jackie was a marketing major, which was thought to be easier than being a finance major. Indeed, later on, Jackie worked at Estee Lauder and Revlon. One day already, 2000, I saw Jackie on Madison Avenue, proving that if I spend enough time walking in New York, you can still randomly run into people you know. Jackie had thin legs and fit the quote, "You can never be too thin or too rich." When I had lost touch with Sally Redmond, I mentioned, etc., etc. So I suppose Denise, Jackie, Alec, and I would be like a big chill group of friends. 1984 was like the year that IBM came out with the IBM PC, so at business school, I worked a lot at the computer lab learning WordStar and DBase 3, statistics programs, and basic DOS. When I load a spreadsheet, I learned DOS. Used a big floppy disk. NYU professor Thomas Ho needed help at the Salomon Brothers Center for Securities Research, which was at NYU, and I started working for him, putting stock quotes prices into his database. He was studying the OTC bid-ask spreads and the behavior of market makers. I think I mentioned for helping. Now also Tom had developed the whole model and the arbitrage-free term structure movement for embedded corporate bond call option pricing. The theory was you had to model the movement of the whole term structure of interest rates, not just the movement of the corporate bond prices. One day while working at the Salomon Brothers Center, I got a call from Fischer Black, who was a partner at Goldman Sachs at the time. He wanted to get a copy of the papers that Tom Ho had written. That was my little moment. My little moment of history with Fischer Black. Was the famous author of the Black-Scholes model. Tom Ho started a company, InnoSearch, Innovative Research, which later became GATT, Global Advanced Technology, which was later bought and sold to Barra. Tom needed someone to help him now sell his corporate bond pricing software, so I became the director of sales at InnoSearch. The main thing was now I had a respectable mentor and a ticket to a career in fixed income. I was able to give up taxi cab driving. My first official MBA internship was with Citibank on Exchange Place, which is down by Wall Street. I was in the department where they had the vault, with which was said to have $50 billion in it. While in the computer lab using IBM PC, I was fascinated the power of databases. I was using DBase 3 to create a list of addresses to send out sales letters. I was able to print letters to multiple addresses, a pretty cool thing back in those days. I had to do anything I could to make money at the time. There was a job at Chase, Manhattan Bank, in the Latin American debt department. The manager was Marta Cabrera. She needed a database for their contacts. So with my limited DBase skills, I applied for the job. My plan was that in the 2 weeks before the job started, I would learn DBase 3 programming, so I crammed for the job. Outside on the street by Hanover Square by the Chase building was a guy on the sidewalk stacking pennies in a row. The Wall Street Journal ran an article called "He May Be the Only One Making a Pile of Money on Wall Street," May 26, 1988. There's those pennies. He was a performance artist, and the traders came by just to watch him and eat their lunch. I also got another temp job where I went to Salomon Brothers itself, not their research center at NYU. I was to type in the system the latest mortgage factors of mortgages. Basically sometimes I was just doing data entry. All of the slick automation techniques had still not fully come to Wall Street. With my mail merge program working in Worcester and DBase, soon I was started mailing letters applying for jobs. At the same time, Maria was anxious to get married since she was Catholic, and I had to take a class to learn a bit about being Catholic. I could never figure out why or how she chose to have the wedding in Connecticut, but we had a wedding at the Waveny house in Connecticut. I could not remember accurately where the rehearsal dinner was, but I think it was Westport Inn. The honeymoon was skiing in Vail, Colorado over Thanksgiving vacation in 1985. We got a free turkey at the lodge, and Vail perhaps had turkey sandwiches too many times. My job interviews continue. I had one at Salomon Brothers where you go around to like 5 stops in the office. I recall I had a cup of coffee and I was leaving, and as I was leaving I noticed the coffee was leaking, and I left a trail of coffee on the carpet as I left. A sort of silly result. Ivan Boesky sent me a personally signed rejection letter. I was interested in mergers and acquisitions and had read his book. There was a job at Morgan Stanley. With Arthur, forgot his last name. It involved a lot of Lotus data collection and maintenance work, like most jobs. There was an opening because the prior guy had quit. It was a tough job, and one night I left early, which meant like 5 p.m., and they didn't like that, I guess. And I was supposed to work until much later. That only lasted about 2 weeks, and all the details of bank financial statements and Lotus macros was too much for me. Maria was disappointed as she wanted me to be like Jack and we would live happily ever after, like Jack and Deborah. Maria had gotten a new job after the copyright and trademark law firm. Her new job was at Wiley & Sons, the book publisher. She held that job for a long time, and it was less stressful than the law firm associate job. Wiley had a division in Eden Prairie near Minneapolis. She started having work there, and it looked like her job could take her there. As a solution to our relationship, I started looking for a job in Minneapolis as well as New York. A graduate, New York graduate named Charlie Burns was at First Bank System, which is now U.S. Bank, offered me a job at the Mergers Acquisition Department. My marriage to Maria was failing in the first year, as we were separated, but I was trying to salvage it. Though Maria was not responsive, so even though I left the door open to her, so failed to respond back. So we were still married, but I would go to Minneapolis, but she never moved there, in fact. So I ended up buying Guy Blaylock, Alice's boyfriend's car, a red Chevette, and drove it all the way to Minneapolis from New York. There's my buying this car from Guy. It's like a silly car. It was like a, what was it? Oh God, that's a weird car. What car was that? Chevette. Yeah, a red Chevette. I have to stop here. So I'm moving to Minneapolis. Part 17 ended. I had married Maria and didn't make a pile of money. There's a pile of pennies. That's what I made, was a pile of pennies. And here is Tom Ho. I'm reading. I was reading from Memoir to 40, the autobiography of David Smith. That's part, I think, 17.